Greetings and welcome, everyone. You're in another module, another episode of the Biz Info Zone show. My name is Vlen Hawkins, and I'm your host. I'm just so excited to be here today, as I am every day, but today a little special because this is one of my favorite people in the entire world who has really made an impact on my life and the work that I do. And as we get into the interview, you will see that. But I just want to take a moment to welcome you all to the zone, the Biz Info Zone, where you, the savvy social entrepreneur, get to express your purpose, plan your next moves, implement your strategy that takes you into prosperity in your life and your business. And today's show is a special show. Because if you have ever thought about the value of shifting your focus from getting to giving, you're in the right place today, because that's the conversation. It's also something that you're going to see that's going to get proven out that it's financially profitable, because our guest today, Bob Burg, who's a business mentor, a speaker, trainer, entrepreneur, and founder of Go Givers International. He's the co-author of the international best-selling book, The Go Giver. He's going to show us the secret about having a go-giver mindset for business success. You know, when Bob talks about giving, he's talking in terms of constantly and consistently providing value to others, and that's what every entrepreneur wants for themselves and their business. And yet it is about planting seeds of goodwill. And that always takes me to the correlation of social entrepreneurship. So I can go on and on telling you who Bob Burg is, what it is that he's doing in the world, and how it is that he's making such an impact and has done so for so many years. And, you know, although for years he's been the best-selling author of a book called Endless Referrals, over the past few years, it's been his business parable. The Go-Giver has captured readers all over the globe, and you're going to hear just why. It shot to number 6 on the Wall Street Journal's business bestsellers list in just 3 weeks after it's released, and it's reached number 9 on Business Week. Since the book has been released, it's consistently stayed in the top 25 of the 800 CEO Reads business book bestseller list. And that's an accomplishment. That's a truly a feat, because books may reach that, but they don't consistently stay there. So welcome with me today with his newest book, Adversaries to Allies: Win People Over Without Manipulation or Coercion, by talking and doing the Go-Giver way. Help me welcome Bob Burg. And Bob, welcome to the Biz Info Zone show.
Lynn, it is a delight to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Bob, get us started. Tell us a little bit about this journey that you've been on. You know, what prompted you to want to write this kind of a book? What prompted you to be in the space where you're not only helping entrepreneurs globally, but you're taking this message into the corporate environment and other places where people who are in this whole shift, in this new consciousness of how to make the world a better place?
Well, yeah, I think it really was just a matter of finding something that I really enjoyed doing and felt could add value to the marketplace, and just continuing to hone the craft and hone the skills and find ways to bring out that message. I've been very, very fortunate to really be mentored and have great examples along the way and find out what didn't work and what did work, and so sharing that with others is a lot of fun, and it's a great way to make a living. So it just you know, kind of worked out well.
Well, that's exciting. So let's start off. Tell us a little bit about the book, and about how it's had such an impact, getting people to look at what it is that they're doing in business today and what shifts they may want to consider to really get into the go-giver space.
Well, I think the biggest thing, and pardon me right here because the microphone wire came out, so I think it's fine now. Can you hear me? Okay.
Can hear you great.
Okay, I apologize. Really, with the Go-Giver, and really with most of my books, whether it's Endless Referrals or Adversaries into Allies, there's an underlying premise to it, and that is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. So it's all really about creating genuine and authentic relationships with people. The focus tends to be just like with the Go-Giver, where, as you mentioned earlier, when we talk about giving, we're talking about constantly creating value for others, for the marketplace, for the individual. Understanding that not only is that a nice way to live life, but it actually happens to be the most profitable way to do business, because in the basically free market-based society that we live in, where people don't have to buy from you, they're only going to buy from you because they feel as though there is more value to them doing that than they're not doing that. And that's the way it should be. There's no other reason they should buy from you. And so the key is being able to communicate that value. And that value is always in the eyes of the beholder. It's not what we think should be of value. It's not what we think they should find to be of value. It's what they see as helping them in the way they want to be helped. One of my great friends, a terrific entrepreneur, Sean Woodruff, has always said that a professional salesperson connects the benefits of their product or service with the wants, needs, and desires of the customer. And that can happen only because your focus is absolutely laser on them and their needs, which means you're asking the right questions. It means you're listening not to answer, but to understand.
Right.
To be able to match. And that's why we say, John David Mann, my awesome author, co-author of the Go-Giver, he and I have a saying that money is an echo of value. It's the thunder to value's lightning, which means the focus must be on value. The value comes first, and the money you receive is simply a very natural and direct result of the value you've provided. So that tends to be the premise of pretty much everything that that I've written and that John writes, and the ones that we've done together that we've done. It's very much focused on communicating that value to others.
That is amazing, and it's something that every business owner, everyone in business, around business, in the professional sector should actually have as the wisdom of communicating. And I know that a lot of people are not there. The traditional wisdom is not there. So your setup for the book and for all things that you teach and are doing now was very intentional. Is that right?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first started in sales, and I floundered because I didn't know anything about selling, and the training at the company I was first with, the training was negligible. It was sort of go in, talk to people, get them to sign the contract, and leave. I mean, that was that old school kind of and that's not a proper way to sell, and it's not the most productive way to sell. So I started, and this is 35 years ago, I started reading books like Tom Hopkins' How to Master the Art of Selling and Zig Ziglar's books, and started really learning from the masters. And right away, it began to result in a lot higher sales because I had a system, a methodology for doing so. I also had to shift things around for me in terms of my focus, because even when I was using their great advice, my focus was still on me making the sale, as opposed to the focus being on bringing value to the customer. And I remember shortly after I started to really kind of produce in sales for the company I was with. There was a man who was, I don't even know his name, but he was retiring. That might have been his last day, and I think he saw me as kind of an up-and-coming salesman who needed a bit of an attitude adjustment in terms of really understanding where it was at. And he gave me some advice, and fortunately, I was willing to listen. And he said, "Berg, if you want to make a lot of money in business, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others or serving your customer." He said, "Now, when you hit the target, you'll get a reward. The reward will be money, and you can do with that money whatever you want. But never forget that that money is only the reward. That's not the target. The target is serving others." And once I understood that shift made a huge difference in my life. And it's really interesting. Shortly after The Go-Giver came out, I received an email from a gentleman in Pittsburgh who was in a service business, and the downturn had really hurt him, and his business was suffering. And he said, then he read the book, The Go-Giver, and he said, "I realized that where I was going wrong was just like Joe at the beginning, the protege in the story. I was totally focused on me." He said, "Once I realized it wasn't about me, it was about my customers, my business just turned around." So, it is that little shift in focus that really makes a big difference.
I've heard a lot about, nice guys and nice girls finish last. You can't be the nice guy or the nice girl out there and expect to succeed. And that goes totally against the grain of what you're talking about, right? So how do people, outside of reading the book, what's a really targeted way for people to get the connection that basically nice guys and nice girls do win?
They do, and at the same time, there's a caveat there, and I would say there's more to it than that. Because being nice is certainly helpful. Okay, I mean, by and large, people would rather be in a relationship with, do business with someone who's nice rather than someone who's nasty. And certainly someone who's nice, and when we say nice, we're using that interchangeably with genuinely kind. Sometimes the two aren't the same. A person can act nice but not be right. But let's say they're the same. Okay, it's helpful. First, it's good just because it's good to be nice and kind, but it's also very helpful. But it's not enough in and of itself, because you and I and everyone watching this, let's face it, we all know plenty of people who we would describe as being simply nice people, who we would also have to describe as simply broke people. So being nice is important, being nice is helpful, but there's more to it than that. Success is also a matter of doing the correct things in the success process that allows a person to be successful and finish first. So you combine being a genuinely nice, genuinely kind person and doing the correct things in the success process, and you're basically unstoppable. And the 5 laws that John David Mann and I share in the book are simply meant to provide those principles that if someone will utilize them, and all 5 of them, not just 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them, but all 5 of them together in conjunction, they've got to be successful.
Wow. Now, you mentioned Joe, the main character of the book, who's frustrated, and he's, the guy that contacted you and described that until he read the book, he didn't understand. And, it takes me to the point of being a go-getter. I've always been a go-getter. Let's get it done. Let's do this. And I realized that there was a lot of pushing in that. And then I started thinking, well, being a go-getter, maybe that means that's not the right thing. So there really is a balance between a go-getter and a go-giver. Can you address that?
Yeah, they work in harmony, actually. One doesn't take away from the other. We love go-getters because, like you said, go-getters get things done. They take action. And, Lynn, you're a very successful businesswoman, and many of your listeners and viewers are successful entrepreneurs. We all know that you can have the nicest ideas, the best thoughts, the greatest of intention, But unless action's put into the mix, nothing's going to happen. It simply cannot happen. So no, we love go-getters. The good news is there's no natural division, if you will, between a go-getter and a go-giver. Many go-getters are also go-givers. And I would say that every go-giver is also a go-getter. The opposite of a go-giver then is not a go-getter. The opposite of a go-giver is a go-taker. And that's that person who feels almost entitled, if you will, to take without having added value to the person, to the process, to the situation. And I think we all know people like that, and they can be nice people. They tend to be very frustrated, though, because as hard as they work and as much as they do, they tend not to get the kind of levels of success they feel they deserve. And even those times they do, it tends to not be long-lasting because it's not built on a proper foundation. And yet they also tend to think everyone else is naive, right? But when we say go-giver, we're really just talking about that man or woman who has learned, or perhaps always intuitively knew, that it's that person who can move, as we like to say, or shift from an I focus or a me focus to an other focus. Understanding that when you do that, now you've created that situation where that person feels good about you. They begin to know you and like you and trust you and want to be in relationship with you, want to do business with you, want to become your personal walking ambassador.
Beautiful. You know, it makes me think about what the book calls the 5 laws of stratospheric success. And law number 1, the law of value. And you've explained a little bit about that, but why don't you take us through those 5 laws?
Sure. Well, the law of value is really, it's the foundational law. It's where it begins. And the law of value says your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, when you first hear this, it can sound a little counterintuitive, even counterproductive, because how do you give more in value than you take in payment and survive in your business, never mind thrive in your business? Sounds almost like a recipe for bankruptcy, right? Give more in value than you take in payment. So to understand this and make sense of it, we simply have to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, that brings with it so much worth or value that someone will willingly exchange their money for it and be ecstatic that they did, while you make a very healthy profit? And I like to use the example of an accountant. And let's say you hire an accountant to do your taxes, your tax returns, and this accountant charges you, we'll name a round figure, $1,000. That's his fee, or literally his price. But what value does he give you in exchange for this $1,000? Well, first, through his years of experience, his diligence, his hard work in understanding what you're looking to accomplish, what your business is about, and how you're, right? He's able to save you $5,000 in taxes. He also saves you countless hours of time that frees you up to do what you'd rather be doing and what you're more qualified to do. And he also provides you with the security and peace of mind of knowing it was done correctly. So we see here that, again, while price is finite, value can be concrete in terms of that $5,000 that he saved you, but also conceptual in terms of that security and peace of mind, which probably holds more value for you and your family than the $5,000 in taxes that he saved. So what he did is he gave you well over $5,000 in value or use value in exchange for a $1,000 price or cash value. He gave you more in value than he took in payment. So you feel great about it because you got more in value than what you paid for, but he also profited greatly because to him it's well worth it for him to lease out his time for $1,000 to do that work. So you both. And in fact, one of my great mentors, Harry Brown, used to say that in a free market-based economy, which basically means no one's forced to do business with one another. People willingly exchange. There are always at least two profits: the buyer profits and the seller profit, because they each exchange something they wanted less in order to receive something they wanted more. And that's why free enterprise, when it's allowed to function, actually builds a greater pie for everyone, because value for value exchanges always increase the pie.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And that's the first law, the law of value. The second law is the law of compensation. And I know that they're directly related, but you mentioned about setting price. Setting price is different than value. So talk a little bit about that for us.
Yeah, well, the law of compensation says your income is determined by how many people you serve, how many, as well as how well you serve them. So where law number one says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number two tells us that the more people whose lives you bring that exceptional value to, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. The accountant who you hired did a great job for you, gave you more in value than he took in payment. You're happy with him. You would do business with him again. You'd probably refer him to others. Well, his other clients most likely feel the same way. So our accountant is very quickly amassing an army of what we call personal walking ambassadors. And as he continues to add that kind of exceptional value to the lives of more and more people, his income will continue to grow and grow. And then it brings back to what you were talking about, with pricing. He's not having to try to lower prices in order to get the business. That's a horrible game to play, because when you sell on low, unless your last name is Walmart, okay, trying to sell on low price is not a good business strategy, because even if you make the sale, you're not working at a great enough margin to make you happy with it, to run your business, to be able to reinvest in it. You're not able to provide the kind of servicing to your clients that they need, so it's going to hurt your reputation anyway. And if they buy from you because you're the lowest price, they'll buy from your competitor next time because he or she is the lowest price. So when you sell on price, you're a commodity. When you sell on value, you're a resource. So the key is not to try and lower your price. It's to instead try to communicate your exceptional value to that person. And that's also where you're going to be able to serve more people, because you're going to be able to have earned the right to ask for and receive referrals to others.
Beautiful. And law number 3, the law of influence. I can't wait to hear about this one.
Well, the law of influence, and this is probably my favorite one, just because it's sort of been that premise of the other books as well, the know, like, and trust. And this just says that your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, this again sounds counterproductive at best, and perhaps even downright Pollyanna-ish at worst. But Lynn, if you think about it, all the great leaders, the top influencers, the most profitable salespeople, this is simply how they run their lives and conduct their businesses. They're always looking for ways to bring value to others. And now, let me qualify this, if I may, because it can sound counterintuitive again to say place other people's interests first. In no way, when we say place other people's interests first, are we implying that you should be anybody's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not. It's just as several of the mentors told Joe, the protege in the book, the golden rule of business, of sales, of networking, what have you, is all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. Well, there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you from others than by, again, stepping outside yourself, moving from that I focus or me focus to that other focus, making, as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, told Joe, making your win about the other person's win. And when you do that, wow, you're developing and building that reputation in the marketplace as that go-to person, as that person of extreme, extraordinary value. And, it's just a pleasure to do business that way.
Wow, I love that. Making your win about the other person's win. Yes, that is beautiful. And then law number 4, the law of authenticity.
Yeah, well, this one simply says that the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. And in the story, the mentor for that part, Deborah Davenport, explained that early in her career, she was fortunate to learn a very, very important lesson. And that is that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, even people skills, as important as they are, and please, they are all of them are very, very important. They're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core. Now, when you do, when you, as I like to say, show up as yourself, day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you. They feel secure with you. They feel comfortable with you. They know you. They like you. They trust you. They're much more willing and likely to want to be in relationship with you. People respond to this. I think it was Gandhi who I loved his definition of integrity, which is a wholeness, which is really an authenticity. He said integrity is when everything you think and everything you feel and everything you say and everything you do are in alignment. And that type of congruency is very valued by the marketplace. So the key is to show up authentically. In order to do that, it's important to have confidence and understand the value you bring to the table, because it's difficult to show up authentically when you don't feel you've got anything authentic to show up about. Yet we all bring value to the table. I believe as human beings we all have 2 types of value. One is intrinsic value. That's just by being born you bring value to the table. The other type is what I call market value. And market value is, I would define that as your strengths, talents, traits, characteristics that allow you to add value to the marketplace in such a way that you will be financially rewarded for it. And we all have different strengths, and it's important to tap into those. Now, what can be difficult sometimes is that because we're human beings, we're so emotionally close to ourselves that we can't often see those strengths because we're so used to having them. Even if we work hard to attain them, we're so used to it, we just think, well, everybody else can, and that's not necessarily true. That's why coaches such as yourself are so important, because it takes someone sometimes from the outside a little bit who can really help you tap in and identify those strengths. And when you really come at it from a strength base, wow, you have that feeling of confidence. You know you can add value to others, and you're able to tie that into how they can benefit.
I love what you're saying about those feelings, and I've got a question around the feelings in just a moment, but I don't want to lose the thread that we've started weaving here as far as the 5 laws of stratospheric success. And that takes us to law number 5, the law of receptivity.
Yeah, this now sort of ties it all together. The law of receptivity says that the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. And you might recall that late in the story, the main mentor, Pindar, asked his protege, Joe, to breathe out and hold that breath to the count of 30. Well, Joe tried, but within about 10 seconds or so, he was struggling for air. He's gasping for breath. And Pindar said, "What's the matter, Joe? Can't do it." And Joe said, "No, I can't just breathe out. I've got to breathe in as well." And Pindar kind of jokingly said, "Well, what if I was to tell you it's been medically proven that it's actually healthier to breathe out than it is to breathe in?" And Joe laughed. He said, "That's silly. You can't just breathe out. You've got to do both. You've got to breathe out and breathe." And of course we do. We breathe out and we breathe in. We breathe out carbon dioxide. We breathe in oxygen. We breathe out, which is giving. We breathe in, which is receiving. Because of the many messages of lack that the world kind of gives us through, whether it's the media or television or movies and general culture and where there's this real, almost a disrespect of money. It's like the people who've made it big, that people suspect them now of, oh, what did they do to get so, who did they do it on the back? So, as opposed to, look at these people who provided great value to the marketplace, and as a result, they got wealthy. Well, that's not how a lot of the world sees it, unfortunately. And because of that, we're constantly, from the time we're little kids, hit with this message that money is bad or evil, or there's all this lack and blah, 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 blah. So what happens is people kind of grow up with this idea that giving and receiving are totally opposite concepts. You're either a giver or a receiver, right? But that's not true.
I agree.
Giving and receiving are simply two sides of the very same coin, and they work in tandem. It's not a matter of, are you a giver or a receiver? No, it's you are a giver of value, you are a giver and a receiver. The key is simply in the focus. We need to focus on the giving, right? And when we do, we allow the receiving. And when we do that, now we're tapping into the natural abundance of the universe and the marketplace, as opposed to it being a fight for a ever-shrinking piece of a pie. No, we're just tapping into a much bigger, abundant pie.
That's beautiful. And I love it because there's so much flow that you can actually visualize in seeing the whole giving being the focus, breathing out, and then receiving, the allowing of receiving. I mean, it's the whole circle of life. And that happens in business as well, and it engenders certain feelings. And one of the things that Elaine Nieberding has asked is if you could explain, just tell a little bit about how cultivating and allowing these feelings of success that can come daily will engender the giving actions and attitudes that you're talking about.
Well, it's an excellent question, and I think that prosperity consciousness is something that for most of us needs to be developed, and it needs to be constantly worked on. There's so much lack messaging that we receive on such a continual basis that just comes into us. So first of all, we can avoid some of that when we avoid the sources that bring us that, okay? But it's got to be more. We've got to consciously place abundance thinking into our mind. And that's why people such as Randy Gage, who is one of the prosperity experts today, I read his blog post whenever it comes out. Why? Because I want to consciously be placing prosperity thinking into my mind. Bob Proctor, who's written books on prosperity. There's so many great ones out there. I would leave people out if I started naming them. So what I would do is I would make a study of prosperity. I get the books on prosperity and read them. I would subscribe to prosperity blogs. I would make sure that you're constantly filling your mind with good prosperity-based information. I think that's key. Be around people who talk prosperity as opposed to lack, because there's enough out there that's going to come in naturally. You cannot avoid it, okay? You can insulate yourself a little bit from it, but no, it's going to come in. And let's face it, if we're in business, we're hearing the word no a lot. It's a great reason to buy Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton's great book called Go for No, where they reframe no from something that you avoid to something that you embrace, because, as they say, yes is the destination, no is simply how you get there.
Right.
It's prosperity based. So read the information, listen to the information, watch the information that's going to keep pumping prosperity into your mind. And I'm not talking about magical thinking or anything. I'm talking about good, solid, prosperity-based information.
What great advice that is. I love it. And it's key in society, where we see on a daily basis in the news something negative, where we hear this whole no thing, and what we've been taught. it really has set the stage for how many entrepreneurs are going through doing business now. And we're talking about shifting the paradigm. We're talking about actually changing the whole concept around sales. It is not what it has been. It is a new paradigm. And what are some of the key pieces of this new paradigm? Besides the, give to the highest degree with the thinking, knowledge that you're going to receive commensurate to what it is that you've done. It's just a law of the universe. What else is there in this paradigm shift?
Well, I think one part of the shift is simply more people are understanding it. Because I suspect that throughout the age, you always hear the story about the insurance agent in the 1930s who was beloved by all his customers, right? Because they always cared about their customer, right? You know what I'm saying? The good ones, you always heard this is what they did, but very few people seem to understand that and tap into it. I think that while certain technique aspects of sales have changed, because it's now really gone from when sales was about providing information to now really being able to add insight to someone in any kind of upper echelon sale, high-end sale. Now you've got to really understand that customer's business as well as they do when it comes to how they would use your product or service. So now it's a matter of adding insight in those ways that you can help them, that you add value that way. And yet, I still think it comes back to those people who always focused on others are the ones who were the top salespeople. There were just far less of them. And now it's getting much more mainstream. People are understanding. And I think the internet has helped this a little bit too, and social media, because people have seen, they've seen that if you go onto social media, if you go on Twitter or Facebook and start just trying to sell your stuff, people reject you. People are not happy with it. They see it's about building that relationship. It's about that person knowing, liking, and trusting you. And I think more people are discovering that. So I think that's the biggest shift right there. The amount of people who are tapping into this now.
I agree. I think social media and the internet has just opened this up to fuel the new consciousness. I think people have been asking the question about, I because I'm in business, I need to sell. But the way that I've learned selling, the way that I see others selling is not me. It's not my area of comfort. It's not the way that I want to do it. And so they've questioned, but they haven't found the information. And so I love that you're really getting into this whole shift around selling. And I would ask you, as far as the entrepreneur, whether it's in the corporate environment, and especially for entrepreneurs who are considering themselves as social entrepreneurs, who see that there's something bigger beyond what it is in their everyday business of generating revenue that they elect to do. They want to reach more, to teach more, along with doing business. So the skills that have been taught and the techniques that are out there as far as selling is concerned, are they changing as fast as the consciousness is changing? Is the teaching of those skills and techniques changing as fast as the consciousness is changing?
That's a great question. And I think it differs in different places, because I hear a lot of people saying that no, it really hasn't. And a lot more work needs to be done in that way. Yet you also see certain types of trainings and teachings that I think do a wonderful job of tapping into that. And there are companies that invest a lot of money in that type of training, and they're investing a lot of money in that type of training. Are they using it? Do they have the buy-in from the top that they're going to stay with that? That's individual toward that company and part of that company's culture. But I think in a lot of ways you see, because I hear from people who say, well, no, at the top they say that's how we're doing it, but we're really not. And unfortunately, that kind of incongruency is not going to make for a successful company. But I think more and more are, and I think it's always going to be that way in the world. It's not going to be perfect. at the same time, I think as consciousness grows, more and more people will tap into that.
I love that. And, it brings up the point and somewhat a bit questionable. And that's in the book, you say that you can't make a sale.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, sales are made every day, right? We've got to make the sale. Here's what John and I were really thinking with this. That, again, if you go to a free market type of environment where, again, no one's forced to do business with you, you can't make a sale because literally you can't make anyone do anything they don't want to do. What you can do is you can create the environment, the context, where that person knows, likes, and trusts you. They respect you. You've done a great job of tying the benefits to finding out what they're looking for, and then tying the benefits, and you create the environment where they choose to buy. And you didn't make the sale takes place, it happens, and you're there to receive the sale. Now, if you didn't make the sale, you received the sale. Someone said, well, isn't that just semantics? Well, yeah, it is semantics. But I think sometimes semantics are important, Lynn. Not only in the sense of what we tell others about what we do, but in the sense of what we tell ourselves about what we do. Because if we believe that our purpose is to go out there and make the sale, well, then it's all about us. If, on the other hand, we believe we're out there to create the environment where that person, based on their self-interest, chooses to buy, now our focus is on them. And that's exactly where it should be.
Ah, I love it. I love it. And you're so right. That's the place where you want to be. That's the place where you want to play. And that's the place where I really believe that you have more of that feeling of playfulness and abundance and prosperity. And, this takes me to the next question. When you talk about being a go-giver, and people hear you talking about being a go-giver, hearing you is one thing, but if I go around talking about I'm a go-giver and, do people ever confuse what's being said there, what's being meant by being a go-giver?
Well, first, I would never call myself a go-giver. I think a go-giver is always best if someone else calls you a go-giver. So I wouldn't recommend to anyone they go around calling themselves a go-giver.
Okay.
But you know what I mean? It's like, yeah. But
I think that's a great lesson, too, for us to be able to recognize those who we're doing business with and call them go-givers.
Right, exactly, yeah. That's much, yeah. And so, but yeah, people do misunderstand it because I think what happens is they read the title, The Go-Giver, and they don't necessarily read the book. And if they don't, they think, they make up their own basic story. And we all do that because we all come from our own belief systems, and so we interpret things our own way. We make decisions based on limited information. So when someone sees a book called The Go-Giver, they might think it's about, giving to charity, which we hold as a great value, but that's not what the book's about. Or they might think it's giving away your products or services for free, also not what the book is about. They might think it's being, at everyone's beck and call and never being able to say no. That's not what it's about. So it's about abundance, about prosperity. It's about understanding that if you shift your focus from yourself to bringing value to others, you're going to have a lot more fun, a lot less stress, and be a lot more profitable. And you're going to do business in a way that you enjoy doing business and people enjoy doing business with you. So yeah, I think there are a lot of misconceptions when they see the title. Hopefully it gets cleared up when they read the book, but you never know. I've still seen people on who, when they review the book on a blog or on Amazon, and they say, BURG and Nan make the point that it's better to give than it is to receive. Well, we never say that in the book. In fact, Pindar, the main mentor, makes the point that not only is it not better to give than to receive, you can't give without receiving. Every giving is also a receiving, and every receiving is also a giving. the key is not that one's better than the other, it's that you focus on one of them and the other takes place. So, people, again, they read into it what they want, but I think most people get the basic gist of it, that it's about focusing on bringing value to others, and it's been a fun ride.
It has been. Well, there's a term that you use sometimes, and after this question, I'm going to go and read some of the comments that have been getting posted out here. They're really, really cool. But you talk about MacGuffin.
Oh, yeah.
That's a strange one, but tell us what that is.
Yeah, John taught me that one. Because he does screenwriting, and it's a movie term that he says was first brought into being by Alfred Hitchcock, the late British film director. And a MacGuffin can be defined as the object around which the story revolves. For example, if you look at a few classics, The Wizard of Oz was all about Dorothy getting back home to Kansas. That was the MacGuffin. Everything in the story focused around that. The movie Rocky in the 70s, the focus was the 15-round heavyweight championship fight with Apollo Creed. Everything in the movie led up to that. It was focused on that. The 90s classic Titanic, the focus was the ship. Everything had to do with Okay, here's the thing. When it comes down to it, when the story ends, what you realize is that thing the story was about, the MacGuffin, really wasn't what the story was about. In The Wizard of Oz, it really wasn't about her getting home. The story was about four friends who came to realize that the character trait they thought they most lacked, they actually had the entire time. They just needed to step up to it and embrace it. In the movie Rocky, it really wasn't about the fight with Creed. It was about Rocky Balboa's internal battles. A guy who started out feeling like a loser, who by the end of the story came to realize he had a lot of value to offer the world, and especially those he loved and who loved him. Mm-hmm. And in Titanic, sure, the MacGuffin was the big unsinkable ship that couldn't sink but did, right? But that wasn't what it was about. It was a love story between two young kids from totally opposite sides of the socioeconomic spectrum and blah, blah, right? So how does that relate to sales? Well, a lot of times our MacGuffin is our product or service. And we often think it's about that, but it never is. It never is. If you're in financial services or insurance, the MacGuffin is the financial product or the policy. That's not what the sale is about. It's about bringing peace of mind to the other person. If you're a realtor, you think, oh, I'm selling houses. No, the houses are the MacGuffin, but that's not what the sale's about. It's about helping a family find a place where they're going to have cherished memories, while they bring up their children. And it's about all that goes into that. The house is important, but it's just the MacGuffin. And in sales, it's not about the MacGuffin. It's not about you. It's not about the MacGuffin. It's about the other person. And in fact, it brings up an old sales story, if you will, or sales example, and that is that every year, millions and millions of quarter-inch drill bits are bought. And yet not one person buying one of these millions and millions of quarter-inch drill bits actually wants a quarter-inch drill bit. What they want is a quarter-inch hole.
Right.
Okay? The drill bit is simply the MacGuffin. Now, does the MacGuffin have to work? Sure, of course it does. Should it be guaranteed 100%? Absolutely. Do you have to stand behind your MacGuffin and believe in your MacGuffin? Without a doubt. But the sale isn't about the MacGuffin. It's about what that customer wants to do with that.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love it. Now, I'm going to read a couple of these comments because I think that they are just perfect. Elaine has really expounded her thinking on the giving and receiving, and she says it's like the infinity sign. She likes to call it the abundance propeller and allowing being in the go and flow.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. She always loves conversations about allowing and opening to prosperity-ing. I love that, prosperity-ing.
Very good.
Yeah. And Roland really has gotten this whole make the sale is a very arrogant attitude, and it assumes it's not important to really consider what the consumer needs or wants. What you're saying is like a different language online these days. And for me, it's very refreshing to see, because it is the whole concept of our continued learning, as these things are brought to the forefront. And it really is a great segue to my next question, too, because it's around seeing these new laws that you've just brought us, and to know that there is also the law of left field.
Huh.
And that's kind of a fascinating concept. Tell us a little bit about that, the law of left field.
Well, the law of left field is not. It's not its own law. It's not its sixth law. A sixth law. It's actually I guess you could call it a sub law or mini law within the greater law of receptivity. And the law of left field simply says the greatest gifts will come to you at moments and from places you least expect. What does that mean? How does it work? Well, when living our lives and conducting our business according to these principles, all sorts of value showers down upon us from that unnoticed, that unseen place. Examples: you find a critical lead, you receive a great referral, you make a crucial last-minute connection that results in a very lucrative new client. A golden opportunity drops suddenly right into your lap, or some incalculably valuable thing comes your way, but not from the people or places you might have expected or even hoped. So in other words, Lynn, you might have said to yourself, wow, that one came right out of left field. Now, when living with I guess you could say, a giving spirit, again, meaning focused on creating value for others, great value comes to you suddenly and unexpectedly, and in amounts far greater than what anyone owes you. But here's the thing, and I think this is very key. I think this is dramatically important. There's nothing mystical or magical about this. You can't know exactly where these gifts will come from, only because you can't know exactly where your influence is spread, but spread it has. You've planted so many seeds, as you said earlier, of goodwill, of great will. So many people know you, like you, trust you, want to see you succeed, want to be a part of your life, that the world has now become what we call a benevolent context for your success. And while you can't necessarily see its operation, there is indeed cause and effect. The cause is giving, breathing out. The effect is receiving, breathing in. That's really the law of left field.
Ah, I love that. I love our whole conversation today, and I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge some of the other guests who've been out here just pinging away, along with Elaine and Roland. We've had Danielle Miller and Lynn Sanders, and let's see, who else was out here? Julie Wolfe and Josie James, and I'm just so grateful to everyone who has joined us today. I'd love for you to be able to connect with Bob. So, Bob, how do people connect with you? How can our listeners learn more about what you're doing and where to find your books?
Best place to go is BURG.com, BURG.com. And while there, if they like, they can subscribe to my Influence and Success Insights, which will also get them a Chapter 1 of the Go-Giver, Adversaries into Allies, Go-Givers Sell More, Endless Referrals. And they can subscribe to my blog if they like. And all the various social media is right on that home page. My business partner, the brilliant Kathy Tajanel, set it all up just wonderfully for everyone. So come to Burg.com, hang out for a while, and connect with me, and I look forward to seeing you all there. And Lynn, thank you so much for having me on the show. You're a delight, and it's just been really terrific.
Thank you, Bob. I have enjoyed this as well, and I love bringing people like you who've got so much great energy and valuable knowledge that you're interested in sharing with our audience. I so appreciate you, and I thank you for coming and sharing with us today. This has truly been something that is from my heart in the social entrepreneurship space. And it's something that in the P3 Academy of Social Entrepreneurship that we expound upon how to be in this whole go-giver philosophy and bring it into your existing business, build your new business using this method of doing business, because this is where the success lies. You heard it right here from Bob Burg that the consciousness is changing in the world today, that a lot is because of the internet and social media. And if you're playing out here to a local audience, the same thing applies. If you're playing to a global audience, this is even more important, because the connection, the same kind of connection that you have with someone face to face, is at another level when you're doing it this way. I'm so grateful that things like Skype and Hangouts on Air are here, because this is a lot closer than the webinars that we've been used to doing and the teleconferences. So as you come here today, Bob, give us one final thought that you want to leave our audience with about the philosophy of go-giving and building a business that serves in a go-giver method.
Well, I think it's focusing on others and always staying congruent with your core values. I think if we do that, we're always on the right track.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Now, we've got a couple of minutes before the show is over. I'd like to open things up and invite our audience in to join us to say hi to Bob. If you've got a pressing question, come on in and ask. We're even going to do this a little differently, because we do have a little time. We've got a couple of minutes. The link, I posted the link. It should pop up shortly if it hasn't already. And you can jump in here and be in the recording to say hello and to extend your appreciation for Bob being here today, and maybe even ask a question. And Bob, while that's happening, I want to say that we're going to be doing some specific focus on the go-giver and the go-giver attitude, the whole consciousness that we're moving into these days. And I'd love to have you back on the show at another point in time in the future to actually talk about changing those adversaries into allies and going through what the book is going to be able to do in assisting in this whole shift of consciousness.
Sounds like fun. I'd love to.
Great. Wonderful. Well, we are about at the top of the hour, and I'd love to hang around on the air. I'm very conscious of the time that we're spending and our audience's commitment. So I want to close things off by saying to our audience, once again, thanks for joining us today. My name is V. Lynn Hawkins, along with my guest, the awesome Bob Burg. And just, keep your eye out for what's going on right here in the zone, because in the Biz Info Zone and the Biz Info Zone show, we're bringing you the opportunities to help you to stay in this growing consciousness of prosperity and abundance and collaboration and connection and creativity and contribution. That's what this is all about. So thanks again for joining us. Again, my name is V. Lynn Hawkins. I'm your host, founder of the P3 Academy of Social Entrepreneurship, and I love you. See you next week. Bye for now.